Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon. I'm from the Kent Intermediate School District's Career Readiness Department, and I'm so glad to have you here. We are going to learn about a health career that might be a good fit for some of you, and you may not even know about it yet. And I want to welcome Paula Northup as my guest today. Welcome, Paula.
Hi.
She works at Spectrum Health's Neuro Rehab Department, so we're going to get into what that's all about too. But Paula, before we get going, I guess I want to know what you were thinking when you were 16. You know, did you think you'd grow up to be a nurse aide at Spectrum Health Neuro Rehab? Tell us about that early part of your journey.
So what happened for me, and it might be similar to other people's experiences, is that somebody that I cared about ended up in the hospital. They were hurt, and just seeing the care that was provided for them, the nurses, the aides, the doctors, everybody that was involved. So that's something that I wanted to do. I wanted to help people. I wanted to take care of people. I wanted to provide that kind of care that when you're in your vulnerable state, you need.
Yeah. So at that point, when you were observing this kind of care, did you like science, for example? Did you have a sense that medical field was for you already?
I think the science part was difficult for me. I think it was more about the people. Yeah.
More about the people.
Yeah.
So, and about how old were you at this point then when you had this, I want to go into healthcare, I want to help people?
16.
16, so pretty young. So you're in high school. Are you a pretty good student at this point?
I wasn't a bad student, and I feel like I could have done a lot better looking back, but I was doing the best I could in the situation. So that's great. That was great for me.
So when you graduated, you're probably around the age of 18 or so. What were some of those first steps that you did to start entering into the career after high school? Help young people understand what that couple steps is like.
I applied for a job at Angel Care. It's a small company. I don't know if they're still around, but actually I applied for a receptionist position. And to be honest, I didn't do so well, but they're like, we like you. We'd like to give you a job as a home health aide. So that's how I started doing that. That's how I got into the field. And that alone, just in those first few years, I had dealt with so many different patients with different ailments, with different needs. And it just opened up my experiences, my own opinions. And I learned so much. It definitely got me out of my shell. I used to be shy and I couldn't go up to somebody and be like, hi, I'm Paula, but I had to if this was my job. So I definitely learned how to do that.
What were some of those early experiences like you say, when you think back to some of that nerves you had? How did you push yourself forward?
I think I had to focus on just what I was there for, and that was definitely their need for care. I mean, I took care of people who were in wheelchairs, who needed help cleaning their home, and having that in your face, having front row seat to that, you have to focus. So it demands your attention. So yes, I was nervous. Yes, it was nerve-wracking to do all new things, but it was a great experience because it taught me how to focus on what my goal was.
I love that you're giving a real experience, because it's important for young people to know that it's normal to be nervous in a new situation, right?
Yeah.
How would we know if it's something brand new? You're going to be nervous. That's normal, and that's okay, but to push through it. I love that. So tell us a little bit of what I know you kind of go by some different titles. Why don't you tell the students the different titles that you've had and kind of give us what a typical day might be for you?
Okay, so different titles. Depending on the facility, some companies call us tech nurses, nurse techs, apologies. Nurse techs, I've heard unit aide, nurse aide, that's another one. I don't know if you need specifics on who uses what, or just to.
Well, I think that's interesting if you want to give the young people a little insights. Unit aide, nurses aide, nurse tech. I know different hospitals call them different things, right?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So it's kind of, sometimes it can be difficult to like look at applications and, know exactly what you're looking for because every place has a different name. So, but it always helps to, ask somebody who knows, which is why we're here.
Exactly. And I love that you're already helping them understand that as they're looking at job postings on a spectrumhealth.org or at mercyhealth.org, that there should be looking for different titles. It's not just one. That's great. So your current title at Spectrum is nurse aide, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So tell us about what a nurse aide does at Spectrum Health and a little bit about neuro rehab at the same time.
So I do in-home care. I go to people's homes that need my help. I have had a wide range of, we call them clients, the elderly, disabled, different injuries that people have sustained, different. So right now I have 2 clients, and it isn't always that way because we're going in home. So it's not like one facility, you deal with everybody there. It's you have to go into people's homes. A typical day for me, I work 3rd shift. So I usually get there after people have had dinner. So it's more after dinner care if there's anything necessary. Every so often dinner will be late, so I'll have to help with like blood sugar checks. But my responsibilities center around their night ADLs, activities of daily living, which is like brushing your teeth, changing into pajamas, getting into bed, stretching if you need it, any other procedures that might need to be done.
So how long have you been doing this, Paula?
I have been doing this for, hold on, how old am I? 14 years.
So what has kept you interested for 14 years? Because that's amazing.
I think the variety. I mean, yes, I go years with some clients and eventually they either move on or, trade to a different company, or also in this field, we deal with death. So sometimes that happens. That's only happened to me once. Sometimes we're not a good fit and we have to move on and let somebody else come in and try out to see if they're a better fit. So I know this field and I'm comfortable in it, and there's enough variety for me to, and learning experiences. So it's not just like you're doing the same thing every single day.
Yeah, so that variety of clients, and you said that you've only experienced with death one time. Does that mean that one of your clients died while you were there, or only one of your clients over that time has passed away?
He passed away while I was not on the clock. I just got a call I was heading into a grocery store and you don't have to go back anymore. He passed away. And I wasn't with him for very long, but it was still kind of like the thought of somebody existing and then not existing. It's shocking.
Yeah, I know that in other career chats, young people have asked about that. And maybe you could share a little bit how you and your colleagues, how do you deal with that when you have clients that you really get to know over time and you see them maybe deteriorate in their health, or obviously in this case where he passed away? How do you cope with that?
Unfortunately, I don't interact with a lot of colleagues because it's usually a one person job. What I do, since I work 3rd shift, I do get a chance to talk to like the 1st shifters who relieve me or the 1st shifters that I relieve. I think at that time, there wasn't a lot of conversation, and it might be because I wasn't with him for very long and I wasn't really aware of who else was working with him. So it's just however you feel you need to cope, and people have different ways of coping, grieving. I'm sure somebody who had been with him for years, much longer than I had, probably felt a lot different than I did.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about 3rd shift, because that's a shift that oftentimes people don't want, but obviously for 14 years, it's been working for you. Or I'm not sure if you've been doing it for 14 years, but what do you like about 3rd shift?
There's more stability. If that makes any sense. There's the routine doesn't change as much, whereas 1st shift, you might have to do this and that, like take them to doctor's appointments. And so for me, it's like I have a client that I deal with. I have a relationship, we have conversations and everything, and it's calmer for me. So I'm like, I get to know the person, and like, hey, they feel more at ease because, well, they're allowing us into their home and their private life. So for me, it just works better to have a calmer relationship with the clients.
I love that we're talking about this because as young people, most young people who are on this call, in addition to our teachers and counselors, they know it's somewhere in the medical field, but this is where those personality traits start to come into play because some healthcare positions, right, are very fast paced and you don't work with the same patient twice. They're in and out versus something like yours where you get to develop a relationship. And this is where young people can start to do some self-assessment like, what would I like? And that's what I love about career chats is because we're starting to get those nuances of healthcare. How do you build community like with colleagues then? I mean, is it pretty isolating then because you don't work with other colleagues, or is that something that works for you too?
It can feel isolating. There are some cases where you do work with a nurse, but I think the more you end up talking, like for instance, I do have the phone numbers of people who I work with, who I have worked with, and sometimes you get together and it's just that camaraderie. They'll go through the same thing, So, and then we do sometimes run into each other at meetings at the office. It's like, hey, how's it going? It's like, oh, I got married since last time I saw you. It does happen. Just not as much as say if I was working in a doctor's office and I'm surrounded by like 10 people.
But again, for your personality, you might not want to be in an office with 10 people. So that works for you.
True.
Yeah, and that's what's really important. When we think about some of your clients that you've served over that 14 years, have any stood out to you? Help us understand the kind of things you've done for people and that relationship, because I think that's really what sets your particular job apart. What's one of your special client stories?
Ooh, special client stories. So depending on the clients that you have, and one of the skills that I feel like I've been able to learn and better throughout the years is knowing what they need, because they're not all the same. Whether it's cultural differences, societal, generational, and you have to be able to decipher what it is they need from you. Somebody who's 64 doesn't want to hear about the newest music or anything like that. They just, hey, guess what? I tried out a new restaurant. So you have to learn to spot that, almost like to identify that to what it is they need. So with that, I feel like sometimes, like for example, I'm trying to think of my example and trying to think of the words, but like I got married 4 years ago. And as it's a big event, so you tell people, and I tell my clients, and then one of my clients was like, "Oh, let's pull out my wedding book, and then we can look at my." So she wanted to talk about ideas and what to do, like try this, try that, and look at my dress, and so it that's a good bonding. Whereas we still have to be careful not to share too much because we still have to keep those boundaries, from our personal life and our work life. But something like that, it brings something to them, where this person doesn't get out as much as they used to before their accident. So it's almost like they get to live this with us.
Yeah, I love that. So if a young person is interested in getting that position right out of high school, help us understand the steps and what kind of training they'll need. Is that on the job? Help us understand what they would do.
Specifically to get certified as a nurse assistant, there are courses out there. From what I understand, you can take like a 3-week course and then take the state test. That's how I did it when I was first certified at the beginning. But there are different options now. Like you can take it over the span of more than a few weeks now, and there's payment options, and so you don't have to pay the whole sum up front. But they're like, I know Goodwill offers the course. I don't think the place that I went through, which is Walker Medical, is available anymore, but I'm sure there are more. So it's usually like a couple of weeks of learning the information, through school setting, classroom setting, and then you do clinicals at like a nursing home. So then you get like the hands-on experience, and then you get to experience whether or not you want to do, this in a nursing home. which is at a different pace than in-home care.
Absolutely. There are other different paces. And just to let the young people know, and counselors and teachers too, is that because of the demand for some of these roles that Paula's in, the hospitals are actually willing to hire people without the certification and will do some of that on-the-job training now. So you don't actually have to have that training to get the position. So FYI on that.
Yes.
Thank you, Paula, for giving that. One of our guests today wants to know, when you're in neuro rehab, are you working under the direction of a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, any of those ADLs that you mentioned, the daily living skills? Who's directing that traffic for you?
Okay, just to be clear, neuro rehab has merged with VNA. Spectrum is VNA branch. So neuro rehab, as of what day is today? 5 days ago, they no longer exist. So what considering
let me hold you just for a second, because you used an acronym. VNA, is that Visiting Nurses Association?
Spectrum
So,
has, a VNA branch. I believe, yes. So that's also
okay.
under Spectrum.
So it's no longer Spectrum Neuro Rehab.
No.
Okay, this is your hot news for everybody. You're in the know now.
So what happens when we get a new client? Nursing supervisor goes out to the client's home and she comes up with a care plan. And this usually be in the MAR, medical medical, I forgot what the A stands for, but it's a record. It's usually a binder, a thick binder, and usually you find the care plan, what they are able to do, what we need to work on with them. Then you also have the med sheets there, and you have a comm log, which is communication log for between co-workers, and they have nurses notes, which is, you take notes. Not everything goes in nurses notes because, well, this is medical information and that is needed to be recorded. So we go out there, you get sent to a case and you review the MAR. And so it should all be in there. And part of our job is to update the nursing supervisor so she can change the care plan that's in the MAR.
So again, you're looking at that binder when you get there, and then you're making any relevant medical notes for maybe what you observed with your patients or clients while you're there to kind of keep everybody in that communication loop.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So are there internships that you know of? Have you seen anyone come through that's had an internship to get into this?
I have not seen any internships, no.
Yeah, I know that just from my experience in this role, the Kent Career Technical Center is one way that young people will get that training while they're in high school. Either there's a junior or senior, they can go to KCTC, and then they have clinicals. So that's one way that students get their foot in the door. But I have not heard of internships at this level either. So that's just kind of answering someone's question in the chat there. Do you see that patients need more physical therapy, or do they need, or let me read the question. Do you work with more patients that need physical therapy, or more like patients who need long-term care like seniors? Because you're in a rehab situation. So are the younger people, older people, who are you dealing with?
People who need more long-term, people who've had car accidents and can no longer walk. So they're wheelchair bound. I did ones, the shorter shifts happen to be more of a short-term care, which is like somebody had an accident, broke their leg, and they need help for 6 weeks. That's the only time I've ever seen anybody younger, closer to my age. It's not it's not common to find somebody closer, closer to my age that needs long-term care, but it happens. And unfortunately, I did work with a child who was in a car accident once, and they were going to be a quadriplegic for the rest of their life, and they were 5 at the time. And that was really that's very difficult to, have your own 5-year-old and then go see a 5-year-old who completely ends of the spectrum. So I didn't stay at that case very long. It takes somebody with that specific want to be able to do that. But it happens, not common, but it's usually older people, elderly.
Yeah, that would be tough. I've heard that from other people in healthcare who are in pediatrics, or even the morgue, when I've met with them, when they have to deal with children when they're moms themselves, that could be really tough.
Yes.
Helping some of our counselors and teachers and even young people do some assessment, what kind of personality traits would you say are important for this kind of work, Paula?
Personality traits. Let me think. My first thing I want to say is humor, but I know that's kind of like the bottom of the list because, we still have to entertain people when we're there, we have this relationship with our clients. Good time management skills, being able to adapt, because as much as we like to plan, things happen, people get sick, something worsens, and I want to say good people person, but that could look differently to everybody and it could sound different to everybody. So
yeah, because your personality, like you said, you're funny, and that's how you connect with your clients, whereas someone else might be more bubbly and just have a different way about them, but you're all still good with patients. So it's not one type of specific personalities.
Yeah.
But you bring up time management and adaptability, which young people are learning as soft skills or life skills. So I love that you shared that because young people want to know why they're doing those class projects with other people. Well, it's part of being a team and being flexible with other people, for example. Tell us more about that.
I've trained over the years. I've trained people. I've trained a lot of people, and I take notes from my nurses. My nurses tell me what they need, and I train the people. And I've even helped train nurses. But you're like the thing that's very common from that I get from all the nurses is these aides need to please teach them time management skills because they're leaving and their job's not done. And I don't want to call it common sense because I feel like that's not it, but it's that thought process of okay, what is going to be needed next? What can I do so that not just my job but the next person's job is easier? I show up to shifts and I don't mean this in the bad way, but I can usually tell when it's somebody newer or somebody younger because it's well, why don't you do the bed now? It's going to need to be done before that gets used next time. So it's that also would be very helpful. So when I train people, I tell them look, learn the skill. Once you learn the skill, you can put speed to it. Don't try to do everything so quickly because then that's when mistakes happen. And in this field, you want a lot less mistakes. No mistakes would be perfect, but we're human. So that's what happens. And then when I help train nurses, it's more of, since I've been doing this work for so long, I can direct them. I can tell them what to do, where to do it, or I can pick up the slack, which when you're starting a new job, that is very helpful. You have somebody who's seasoned worker and they can help you out. And then once you get the hang of it, well, then you can help somebody else out.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Now, you've been very happy there for 14 years. You shared it. You love the routine, the schedule, everything about it. Help young people understand, because you get such good, solid skill sets. If you decided you wanted to go some other places, Paul, what are some other options where this career path could take you?
All right, just to be clear, I've been with Spectrum for 11 years and the other company for 3 years.
Okay, yeah, total of 14. You've been doing it.
I don't know.
All right.
I'm not doing the math right now.
No worries.
So, currently, because NeuroRehab merged with VNA, I don't think I want to do what VNA does. So, I've been applying to jobs and will actually be transferring to a different department, which is similar to what I do, but with different patients. It's going to be that I can't remember what the word is, but it's that there's turnover. There's patients coming in and then they're leaving because they're done with what they needed from us. So it's going to be different. And also, I looked into nursing homes. That's a little different, different pace and different care needs. So I mean, did I answer your question? Or
yeah, I'm just helping people think if they're even thinking about maybe being in there someday, that there's such big advantages of getting the skills developed as a nurse's aide, right? While they're going to school, you get to test it out, see if you like it, tell us more if you think that's a stepping stone.
No, it definitely is. I've actually worked with people who are like, well, I'm going to go into physical therapy, or I'm going to be a nurse. So people do this just to get in, not just to get their foot in the door with the company, but more like get that experience with patients, with clients, and then that also looks much better on the resume because then they have that. You know?
Right, and they're developing their skills, right? They're developing how to engage with patients and clients.
Yes.
Exactly. I have time for one more question from the group, but I'm going to start sharing my screen because I want to share a resource out with my folks on this career chat today. So Paula, as I finish this up, I want you to think about what word of wisdom you might want to give students who are on this call, or even their teachers or counselors, about encouraging their young people on this career path. A great resource for exploration is onetonline.org. I love this government website. It has all the jobs you can think about on there, and you can search by just putting it into that search bar. If you click on find occupations, all sorts of ways to get to the occupations, but I want to just give you a snapshot. I put in nurse's assistant, for example, and all these different related careers popped up. So again, if you're exploring careers as a young person, you don't know what's out there. So use a tool like this to help expand your mind, what opportunities are out there. And then when you click on it, you'll get more information. So this is the home health aides, Paul. This is what you do. And I love this tool because now it tells us what a typical day is like, what kind of knowledge is needed, what kind of wages you can expect, some of those detailed work activities. And this is a great way to start exploring. Here's some of those other sample job titles that we started off our conversation today, because again, it's not just called one thing, but it gives a great overview. And really for each of these, there'll be a video attached too, that will explain, but we have real live people here on our career chat, so we don't need to depend on that video. But if you have questions you want to get to Paula, you can send them to me at kristaharman@kentisd.org, and I will forward those on to her. If you are on this career chat today and would like sketches, it would, just in case I can't get the chat to save, I'd appreciate if you could email me your name, and I will make sure that you get credit for the sketches today. So kristaharman@kentisd.org. And we have all sorts of other career exploration programming going on, and you can find that at careerreadiness.kentisd.org. We have next week some talk and tours at Mary Free Bed and Orthopedic Associates of Michigan, for example. So I'm going to stop sharing. Again, it's kristaharman@kentisd.org, and I'll put that in the chat. So Paula, what kind of word of wisdom would you like to finish up your time here with us today?
Explore, try everything. I know I got the same thing when I was, in high school. I was like, how can I do everything? But no, do it. That's the only way you're going to know whether you like something or not. I
love that. It's all about finding out what's out there, because you can't be what you can't see. That's something we say a lot. So Paula, I really, really appreciate your making time, especially being a third shifter. Are you usually sleeping this time of day?
During what's Tuesday? It's Tuesday. And at the beginning of the week, my schedule is a little different. So I'm able to function a little bit more during the day. So yeah, it worked out.
Well, I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you giving some inside information on what your career is all about. So thank you for making time to be here. Everybody give Paula some love through that chat. Just Jasmine, sketches are continuing credits for counselors and teachers who need to get that for their state license. And so we're offering that this season for those folks. So thank you everyone for being here today. Paula, I hope you have a good rest of the afternoon, and everybody's really appreciative for sure. I see some students' names who did this last semester and they loved it so much that they're back. So they love learning from you.
All right. Thank you.